Prepare to unravel the greatest mystery of all time. Could the Shroud of Turin hold the key to Jesus' burial? Or is it just a medieval masterpiece gone rogue? This mysterious linen shroud, swaggering with the eerie silhouette of a crucified gent, came on the scene in the late 1200s and was unveiled by the dashing knight Geoffroy de Charny with a flourish that set medieval tongues abuzz with excitement. Leap through the decades of hushed murmurs, royal safekeeping, and a rollicking jaunt to Turin, Italy, and you've landed square on the trail of the Shroud of Turin, a riddle that's kept the eggheads and doubters tiptoeing on the edge. But here's the clincher to snag your curiosity. Could this be the actual burial shroud of Jesus from 33 CE? Or just a slick 14th century forgery cooked up by a clever artist? In the 20th century, the Shroud of Turin emerged as the ultimate artifact captivating scientists with its secrets, and this intrigue deepened when the 1978 team, the STURP, arrived with the state-of-the-art technology, uncovering bloodstains and pollen that pointed to the Middle Eastern origin. Could this be the long-sought evidence? That excitement shifted in 1988 when radiocarbon dating suggested a 1260 to 1390 CE origin, igniting heated fraud debates that shook the artifact's legacy. Yet, the plot thickens with 2022 studies hinting that the contamination may have altered those dates, potentially aligning them with the 55 to 74 CE, and reopening the mystery. This ongoing debate has fueled global fascination, drawing experts from diverse fields to scrutinize every thread of the shroud. Microscopic analysis revealed unusual properties in the image formation, neither paint nor dye, but a phenomenon defying easy explanation, sparking theories of ancient photography or even a miraculous imprint. Skeptics argue it's a masterful medieval creation, possibly crafted with the early acid techniques, while believers point to the precise anatomical details as proof of authenticity. As evidence teeters between science and speculation, the shroud continues to challenge our understanding of history. But the shroud's true believers are laying out a crackerjack case, leaning on spooky details and oddball science. They're touting the three-dimensional image snagged with fancy gadgets, matching a body's curves like no medieval brush slinger could fake. Human blood type AB with trauma hints from bilirubin screams crucifixion. And while Jerusalem pollen and zero paint strokes suggest a divine job beyond any con artist, skeptics are pushing back hard. The trail sizzles with a 1532 blaze that signed the shroud in Chambéry, France, leaving it patched up like a tailor's fix. Some brainiacs figure the fire threw off the 1988 carbon-14 date of 1260 to 1390 AD. But Christopher Ramsey's 2008 crew says it's bunk. Contamination shifted it just a year. As of now, the science bigwigs peg it a medieval gig, with the fire's punch too weak to matter. Modern tech digs deeper into the shroud's secrets, and in 2018, wide-angle X-ray scattering pegged the linen's age to be about the 1st century, though critics call the method shaky. Then, in 2021, infrared spectroscopy found no paint traces, bolstering the real deal claim. Yet lost medieval tricks do keep the skeptics guessing, and each new study spins the tantalizing puzzle, mixing faith, science, and history into a real brain teaser. But the brain teasing isn't done. The Shroud saga took a wild twist in 2025 when the global archaeologist unveiled a breakthrough in Jerusalem. A first-century burial site yielded linen scraps with faint impressions, hinting at a shroud link with similar weaves and chemistry. Though skeptics demand more proof, obviously. This find got the world buzzing, spotlighting the artifact as a possible ancient witness. Experts are now comparing the newly discovered linen to the Shroud of Turin, using advanced DNA sequencing and carbon dating techniques, aiming to settle the timeline once and for all. And like a really bad commercial. But wait, there's more. Well, there is more. What about the blood on the shroud? The 1978 STURP study spotted human blood stains with hemoglobin, and Pierre Boulogne's 1980s test pegged it as a type AB, hinting at trauma via bilirubin. Still, skeptics cry contamination, and with no solid peer-reviewed consensus, as of now, the debate rages on. Thus, the conclusion of the Shroud of Turin is the 1978 STURP study that found human blood stains, possibly type AB with trauma signs. But the contamination raises doubts, and in the 2015 DNA analysis from the dust revealed diverse haplogroups from Europe, Near East, and India. Yet it's too muddled to confirm its origins. The 1988 carbon-14 dating points to a 1260 to 1390 AD, suggesting a medieval fake, though the 2022 studies hint at contamination, which actually pushes it back to around 55 CE. Burial oils like myrrh and aloes are unproven as the image source, lacking chemical evidence. And meanwhile, Leonardo da Vinci's early photography experiments with camera and silver sulfate spark questions. Did he or a 15th century prankster craft this enigma? The case remains unresolved, which invites remote viewing. Before we go any further, let's elevate your journey, personal and cosmic. Meet your must-have companion, the Energy Healing Map at mdhmap.com. Perfect for beginners and pros. It's your guide to clearing trapped emotional energies like ancestral or past life baggage, aligning your vibration with your goals. Imagine releasing old vibes to unlock new skills like remote viewing. With a clear energy field, you'll tap into the unseen. mdhmap.com helps you heal, grow, and explore your universe. Grab your energy healing map today, clear the past energies, and align your vibe, and see what's out there. Visit mdhmap.com now. All right, we are ready for the remote view of the Shroud of Turin, and with me is Christina. All right, Christina, what do you have?
I gotta say, I was pretty mind blown when I went through and asked this question. I got that it was created probably in the first century.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's blown my mind, basically.
I know when we first started talking about this, I mean, I think you and I were pretty well convinced this was a fraud, because about the time that this was came on to the medieval stage, if you will, that's when all those relics were like, the historical relics, religious relics were kind of big, and there were a lot of forgeries. And they just sort of felt like, well, this has got to be one of those, right? Because the
Right.
history seems to be a bit shaky. But then it was so interesting because when we tuned in the first time, we're both kind of convinced, yeah, it's a forgery. I mean, I remember us talking about that. Yeah, we think it's a forgery.
Yeah.
But
For
then
sure.
it kept, what was so weird is that when I would tune into the shroud itself, and I realized, even though I say it over and over and over again, that words are important. If you don't get the words right, you're not going to get the correct answer. And so when you're talking to the matrix or whatever it is you talk to try to figure this stuff out in the energetic world, you've got to be precise in your language or you're not going to get the right outcome. Like if you're programming a computer and you want to find an image of a dog and you type in FOX, you might get a four-legged furry critter, but it isn't a dog, right? So you have to
Right.
be very careful of the language. I think the thing that surprised me, that subtle energies can also change the outcome of the answer. And for me, I was just sitting here one day, why am I struggling? Why is it sometimes I'm getting it's a fakery or 14th century? Why is sometimes I'm getting no, it's more original? And I was like, it's this one day, and then I come back and it's in another answer. And I think you struggled with that to some degree.
Yeah, I did. It was really difficult because I also have studied the shroud for a little while off and on in my life, so I had some ideas. So,
Yeah, we had ideas. In
mm,
this case, the ideas were not, were really causing the problem because we're getting, yes, it is a fraud. Yes, it's more original, even though we couldn't quite understand it. And then it was that fighting back and forth. And then I was realized like, oh my gosh, my own energy is blocking this. It's overriding it. Or my ego. So that's when I sent you an email. Let's just
yeah,
block our ego, our biases and opinions, and then ask the question instead. When was the image created on this piece of cloth? Because we can't say this is Jesus. I assume it is because what other supernatural thing could afford this? But again, you never know, right? But
true.
I think we can go as far when we front load remote view this, meaning that we have a known target. Um, if we ask it, when was the image created, and back off our biases, opinions, and our ego,
Yeah,
then it seems like it came through relatively easily, the answer. And we started, was it created in the 15th century? Because the story of the fraud, I think it was either the 13th or the 14th century. So we went a century ahead. And then we backed it down from there. And I got the first century. And I'm happy that you got the same answer. I have to say, I was stressing. I'm like, is she going to get the same answer? I don't know.
yeah, yeah. But it still is mind blowing,
Right. So how did it happen? And that's
right?
the thing that when I asked, well, how was it created? And I kept seeing this burst of energy. And when you're asking, well, what is the source of that burst of energy? And when you're doing this, it's that first information that flows into your mind in under 8 seconds. And I kept hearing over and over radiation burst, radiation burst. And that's what I get. I have no idea if that's even possible, but that's what I'm getting. Radiation burst.
Yeah, and after we talked, I kind of went back and I also got a radiation burst too. But now I'm really stumped because I'm like, so how is that even possible?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, people before radio didn't know that they could hear people talking from around the world
right.
without being in the same room with them. So I don't know. I don't know. So I guess when you're saying, is the Shroud of Turin legitimate? I think the best answer I can give people, and I won't speak for you, but for me is just examine yourself. Look at the artifact and just ask, when was it created? Or even ask, is it Jesus? Is it Yeshua or whatever? Here's the thing. If you ask if it's Jesus, my thought is the answer is going to be no. And here's why. Because that's the Greek name and not his Aramaic name. So his name was Yeshua, right? Or Yeshua. But
Yeah.
it was not Jesus. That is Greek. So if you were to say that, that's like I'm typing in my computer DOG to see an image of a dog, and a fox comes up because I'm typing FOX. So it's the same kind of thing. You have to be very careful. Is this Jesus? No. Is it Yeshua? Yes. I mean, it could be as much as that. I don't really want to go there on who it is, because I think I would rather leave people to be inspired to ask themselves and what hits them. And I would love for people to leave comments in the box, just to let us know what they're getting. So what are your thoughts, Christina?
I think you're right. I think people need to suss this out for themselves. Yeah, you just need to ask yourself and see how it feels. I am not sure myself right now, just because I had myself convinced that at one time I thought, oh sure, yes it is. It's the image of Yeshua or Jesus, and then as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't know, come on, how does that even work? And so you go back and you think, oh, it's got to have been a forgery just because of the time frame. And so now I've kind of come full circle, kind of back around. And so what or who is it? I don't know. So.
Yeah, and I've got my suspicions and my feelings on it. But I think because it means so much to so many people, I don't want to take what it means to them away from them, right? I'm about truth, but somebody else may want to believe different. So, but what I can say is that it feels like this image was created in the 1st century. And I do feel it was a radiation burst. And if I am thinking of it for myself personally, I feel it was Yeshua. I do. I feel like it was him. But then again, it may not be to somebody else. But that's what I got. That much is for sure. Image created 1st century. I had some other people look at it, and they're kind of getting 1st century. I haven't heard back from everybody yet. But they're kind of getting 1st century too. So I think the consensus is it's definitely a 1st century image, and likely radiation burst. That's what I'm going to go with. So last thoughts on this?
No, it's just super fascinating. Just, yeah.
Well, it's been fun. Thank you for joining us as we viewed the Shroud of Turin. And if this glimpse to the past fascinated you, don't miss our upcoming video where we dive into the infamous question, was Lizzie Borden guilty? She was found not guilty, but modern investigators have uncovered a chilling evidence that might change your mind. Innocent or guilty? You'll have to tune in and find out. Subscribe, hit that bell, and join us for the next mysterious journey. Thanks for watching.